You're a great speaker, and if you would come forward and share your thoughts.
I think in the course of our life, most of us experience a transforming moment when we see something from a perspective that we had never seen before. And that happened to me back in 1999 when my sister, who is Eric's grandmother, and my brother-in-law asked me to take them to Europe to visit the places where I had been during the war. They wanted to do this for their 50th wedding anniversary. But several years earlier, I met a lady by the name of Betty Thompson. I was introduced to her by her nephew. And Betty lost her husband on Omaha Beach on D-Day. And in a conversation I had with Betty before we left for Europe, she asked whether during our stay in Normandy would we visit the grave of Donald Weisel. I told her we would be honored to do so. So in the fall of the year, the three of us flew to Brussels, and then we drove down to the Ardennes, the scene of the Battle of Bulge, visited with wonderful Belgian friends, and in several previous visits, I would drive to the American cemetery at Henry Chapelle, where many of my friends and comrades from my unit are buried. We then drove to Normandy, and we stayed in Bayeux. And in Bayeux, I went to a floral shop and I purchased a single red rose to place on the grave of Donald Weisel. I thought that would be more eloquent. So we drove to the cemetery, and of course the cemetery is located on a bluff that overlooks Omaha Beach. And we were very fortunate that day, in fact, that we had a guide who was very knowledgeable. She was very knowledgeable and very articulate, and because of the size of the cemetery, she drove us to the gravesite in her own car. She had with her a small American flag, small French flag, and a Polaroid camera. And as we stood and knelt by his grave, she placed a flag on either side of the white marble cross. And I laid the solitary rose on his grave. And all the while she was telling us things about this cemetery, that there are over 9,000 young Americans buried here. But what really shocked us is when she told us there are 43 sets of brothers buried here. And there are 33 sets of brothers buried side by side. And the reason that cut me to the quick was because my own dear wife lost two brothers. One in North Africa with the 1st Division, and the second one on the destroyer off of Okinawa when a twin-engine kamikaze slammed in the former number 1 gun turret. And they never found anything of them even to bury. But as I had done on other occasions, I walked alone among the crosses. And I just thought again how fortunate that I had been. Because I know that but by the grace of God, with what happened to me in Normandy, this cemetery should be my current address. And I thought how greatly God had blessed me with a lovely wife, 3 handsome children, and 8 wonderful grandchildren. But then I multiplied 9,000 crosses times 50 years. And you come away with a staggering sum of at least 450,000 unlived years represented in this one cemetery. Can you imagine? At least 450,000 unlived years with all of the potential of each life and of each year. But then there was something that puzzled me. I wondered why it was that of all of the cemeteries I had visited, and especially the Henry Chapelle, why was it always this Normandy cemetery that evoked such a powerful emotional response within me? And then something occurred to me. The cemetery at Henry Chapelle lies in a setting of absolute peace and tranquility. It seems that even the birds whisper when they fly overhead. But Normandy is different. And to me, the difference is the waves. It's the sound of the waves. It is the unrelenting sound of the waves as they wash ashore here at Omaha Beach. And I thought again of the young man whose grave we had visited. And then I thought of my own life. And I thought of the many, many blessings that have accrued to me over these more than 50 intervening years. And it was then that it seemed that those waves had a very powerful and a very severe and a very threatening reminder to me, telling me, don't you ever, ever forget the magnitude of the sacrifice that was made by just that one young man. And it was at that time that it seemed that each wave still carried with it all of the terror and all of the horror of the last few moments of his life. And each wave seemed to carry with it the sound of a bell tolling out another and another and another of his unlived years. And then each succeeding wave also had the painful reminder that that young man would never experience the fathomless pride of fathering a precious son or daughter. And each succeeding wave had the reaffirming reminder that that young man, unlike I, he will never know the blessings of old age. And unlike I, he will never have the pure joy of just holding and hugging and kissing a beloved grandson or granddaughter. And then I saw another wave, and on its crest were the scattered petals of a crushed rose, the painful remembrance of the anguish of the wounded and broken heart of that young, loving wife that will never mend. And as those waves go sweeping in toward the shore, they each gently and reverently kiss the sands of that beach. Because to me, those waves also represent the tears of a nation that is weeping for its young. And the unrelenting sound of those waves is God's eternal reminder of the enormity of the price that was paid for our freedom. And I would like to cry out to those young men buried beneath those white crosses, you were robbed. Indeed, you were robbed of the most sublime gift that we possess. You were robbed of your very lives, but dear young men, we too were robbed. We were robbed of you. We were robbed of your love. We were robbed of your hopes and of your ambitions. And we also were robbed of those thousands of precious sons and daughters that you never even had the privilege to father. And we were robbed of those thousands upon thousands of unborn grandsons and granddaughters that you will never hug, you will never kiss, and they will never know the magnitude of your sacrifice. Yes, dear young men, we were all robbed by that insidious, that terrible, insidious thief called war. But then I wondered, what more could I say to my dear wife and to Betty Thompson, who have suffered such terrible loss, except to repeat the words to an anthem? Oh, beautiful, for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.